All right, like I said in a previous video, new year, new me. We still doing things. We still moving on YouTube. 2018, we still trying to make things happen. We still trying to talk about the sport that we love and these games that we play, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm about to drop another video on you. This time, you probably forgot that I even make this kind of video. Y'all probably haven't even seen one of these on my channel in so long, but I care about the sport primarily. That's like my primary interest is the sport itself. So I watch as many fight cards as I can see. I watch pretty much every UFC. I watch some Bellators, the TV portion at least. I won't necessarily say I sit and watch the Bellator prelims. I might try to catch the Roy McDonald fight because I don't think it's televised, and that's a slap in the face for a dude that left the UFC so he can go make more money to get sidelined by a freak show fight. But I digress. Rampage Jackson is my dude, so I'm always gonna ride and die with Rampage Jackson. But he's at the twilight of his career, so let's not be on that for too long. But let's go ahead and move on to this UFC 220 card. I'm gonna do a quick run through of all the fights on the card, give you a quick prediction, no in-depth detail breakdown on what to look out or what not to look out for. I say that at the beginning, but I might divulge into some details as we go along the card, and we'll see where we go. But let's just start off with the first fight on the card. We're looking at Gleison Tibau, which I'm told today isn't actually his name. Tibau is actually the city he's from, and his first name is something different as well, which is news to me. I guess that's a big thing with Brazilians. They rebrand when they become, they do something, they rebrand. So it's crazy. I digress. I mean, the same thing happened with Yoshihiro Akiyama and Paulo Costa. Akiyama is Korean, but I think he's famous in Japan, so he's like a big Japan idol. But I digress. He's fighting Islam Makhachev, who's young, hungry. I think he's trained with Khabib in the past. Makhachev has always looked good in the UFC. He's always looked improving. Gleison Tibau is a little bit older, but he's still a physical specimen. Look at his body. Like that's an old dog right there, still barking like a young pup. So we're gonna see what Gleison Tibau can do in this thing versus Islam Makhachev. My pick is for Islam Makhachev. I think he's just too young, too good. He's on the up and up. Gleison Tibau might be able to hold him back, but we'll see. I'm picking Islam Makhachev. Let's move on to the next fight, which is Matt Bessette versus Enrique Barzola. Enrique Barzola is from Peru. He's really aggressive. I've only seen him kind of gas a little bit in one fight, but it was a hard-nosed fight. A bunch of really hard shots taken throughout, throwing real hard shots. So Enrique Barzola comes to fight. He comes to throw things and come to buzz with these guys. And Matt Bessette was on this most recent season of Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. He fought a cat from Denham Springs, Louisiana. I can't remember his name right now, but he was in the UFC for a little while. I'll remember when it doesn't matter, obviously, because that's just how it works when you're making a video. But Matt Bessette fought that guy, got knocked out in the first round, but the UFC still gave him his opportunity to come back. I think he might have won a fight in the LFA between then. So it is warranted that he does get his second shot in the UFC. He was considered to get a shot by the Tuesday Night Contender Series, but, he just got handled in the first round. So which kind of leads me to Matt Bessette's a striker. He likes to throw things too. But Enrique Barzola has never been finished. Never been finished that I remember in the UFC. Not by knockout for sure, but Matt Bessette has been finished in recent years. So it was like last year that he got finished by knockout. It was like a left hook. So I'm leaning towards Enrique Barzola, but I would not be surprised if this fight goes all the way to the third round and one or the other gets a decision. But I'm leaning towards Enrique Barzola. If I had to declare finish, I would think early or midway through the second round. But there is that chance maybe Matt Bessette can mix it up, get the wrestling going, and grind him out and get a decision win. But like I said, my pick is for Enrique Barzola by knockout or decision, either way. This next fight, one of the guys was on the Tuesday Night Contender Series as well. I don't really remember much about these guys, so I can't really make an informed decision. I don't remember either one of these guys' fights, so it's really a moot point for me to talk about it. But if I had to just look at the baseline details, it's a 145-pound fight, 70-inch reach towards Dan Ig. They call him Dynamite. That can't be good for him. He's 8-1 versus 13-2. Let's see what's his takedown average. Okay, so they don't have any stats on Julio Ace. They just know that he's defended 100% of the takedowns, but they also, website error. But his accuracy is pretty good. He does land, but he also absorbs more strikes. So I don't know if this guy's name is Dynamite and this guy absorbs more strikes. I'm leaning towards Dan Ig to hurt him and maybe hurt him early. So we'll see. But no real dog in that fight. But if I had to make a pick just to make a You know, for the UFC picks, I had to make a pick. I'm picking Dan Ig. Just if he's called Dynamite, he must be knocking stuff out. So let's move on. Let's move on to Dustin Ortiz versus Alexandra Pantoja. It's Pantoja? Yeah, it's Pantoja. Okay, so Pantoja, I do know Pantoja because he was on the Ultimate Fighter Flyweight edition. What was it called? A Champion Will Be Crowned, something like that. But he was on the Tournament of Tournaments, or Tournament of Champions. That's the one. He was on Tournament of Champions. He's like, he's a flyweight champion that was from some Brazil organization, but he's got power. He's a really good striker. He kind of leans towards his long straight punches. So you know, his last fight in the UFC went to decision. I think he was fighting. When was this? Like 6 months ago, maybe. So it's been a while since we've seen him, or maybe 3 months, three to 4 months. But it's been a while since we've seen him. Dustin Ortiz is a perennial contender. He's always somewhere around the top. He trains out there at Duke Rufus. He's got good striking, not the world's greatest striking. Not gonna blow your doors off, but he does get knockout finishes, and he does have good wrestling. Pantoja does kind of gas a little bit, so I'm kind of leaning towards Dustin Ortiz to win a more grindy victory over Pantoja. So if Pantoja were to get a knockout, I would be pretty happy because I like Pantoja. I think his style is aggressive and he hits hard, and that's what 125 needs. They need guys who hit hard. They need guys who are aggressive, who come out there and really try to make it happen. So I would be leaning towards Pantoja if the knockout happens. But realistically, I think Dustin Ortiz has too many skills, and he's been around the top for too long. So there's that. Let's move on to Sabasa Hamasi versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan. I've seen this fight before because they fought, I want to say, like 3 cards ago. So they fought 3 cards ago, and Al Hassan was hurting him a little early, and then Hamasi came back and started hurting him, and Al Hassan started getting kind of tired, and Hamasi started, they started brawling, and then Razak kind of landed something real short, and Al Hassan fell, and he fell pretty bad. Like the way he fell, it looked horrible, but he kind of recovered kind of quick. But the referee has already stepped in and separated it. So he was, protesting it and talking on the mic, protesting it, and and apparently, they decided to go ahead and run it back. Al Hassan agreed in the ring that he would run it back if they wanted to run it back because it was kind of, an awkward finish. So, they're running this one back. I still favor Al Hassan to win the fight. His toughest test came to what's that guy's name? Abdul Arahimov. It's a Russian fighter. He's not really like big known, but he's a Russian fighter, and he gave him fits. It was in his face, and he's real aggressive. So he was in his face, made him tired, wore him down with wrestling. So I mean, Al Hassan has a good ceiling, but he does kind of gas out. Excuse me. He does kind of gas out a little bit later in fights, especially when a guy can actually put pressure on him and force him to swing wild and make him miss. Because he's a good powerful striker. He's not necessarily a technical striker. He kind of winds up, loads up, throws everything in his shots. And Hamasi, if I'm not mistaken, is from Top Team, so he's a little bit more strategically put together. But Al Hassan has already beat him once, so I'm kind of leaning that direction. Maybe another stoppage. Maybe this one will go all 3. If it goes late, I favor Hamasi, especially since they fought before. I favor Hamasi to kind of like pick up the pieces from where he left off in the last one and kind of take him out over time and maybe get the decision or maybe get a late finish, TKO, maybe actually a knockout. But my initial pick is going to be for Al Hassan, maybe by finish, maybe by decision, maybe by finish. I don't see him winning a decision, but if he finishes him, he finished him before, so maybe he'll finish him again. That's my pick for that one. I'm going to go ahead and move on from there. We're looking at Kyle Bosniak versus Brandon Davis. Kyle Bosniak is tough. He's good, but I was really impressed with Brandon Davis when I saw him on the Tuesday Night Contender Series. Gritty, hard-nosed, kind of reminds you of what's his name? A little Carlos Condit thing going on. Throws a lot of elbows, but he gets kind of gritty, so he gets kind of bloody. So it's a throwback fighter. He's like old school type guys. Gets nasty, gets bloody. Fight goes long, it gets real gross. Like he was just tainted in red blood in his fight on the Tuesday Night Contender Series, and he's fighting a guy who was a really clean striker. They were landing shots on both sides, but he was just nonstop pressure, just wearing him out. And he's from Mississippi. He's a hard-nosed guy. He trains out there with Hick Diaz, so he's coming rough. I favor him to do good. I hope he does great, and I'm kind of betting with my heart and not my head. Kyle Bosniak does have UFC experience. He's fought in the UFC before, so he's fought, you know, the higher level competition. Brandon Davis is kind of moving into that space now, but he did well on the Tuesday Night Contender Series. So my head is, you know, my heart is betting here. I'm betting Brandon Davis does well, and maybe get a finish, maybe get a decision. We'll see, but I'm leaning towards decision in this fight because he was doing some damage in his fight on the Tuesday Night Contender Series, but it was never in any risk of being stopped by any single individual shot. It was more of a constant barrage of elbows, knees, and just grittiness. So and he had a really good jab too. He did show a really good jab on that show. So we will see, but I'm leaning towards him for decision. And we're gonna move forward with that. We're looking at Thomas Almeida, who was, man, a couple years ago, he was on a totally different trajectory. You know, until he ran into Cody Garbrandt and kind of, you know, that kind of set him back a little bit. But we're trying to see. We're not gonna ride him out to the sunset yet. We kind of hoping that this guy pulls himself together and gets it done and comes back. Rob Font's coming off of a loss to Pedro Munoz, who is really looking good. Pedro Munoz got good striking, but he's also got ridiculous jiu-jitsu, and he'll catching that quick. But Rob Font's got banging knockout power, and that's where Thomas Almeida. I mean, every dog has their day. Almeida's got good, clean striking, but he does get hit. He gets hit hard and gets hit often. I can't see a world where this doesn't turn into like, you know, who hits who first situation. It's kind of what it's looking like. Thomas Almeida does have some skills. He's got some good technique. He's got that good Muay Thai, but he gets hit a lot. And Rob Font is a known finisher, standing on the ground. Not so much by submission. He's more of a knockout guy. He's got real good power. He's put some people away in the UFC in some real emphatic ways. So I'm kind of leaning towards Rob Font to get that slot, to get that Thomas Almeida finish. I'm thinking he's gonna knock him out because Jimmy Rivera gave him some bumps and bruises, and kind of kept it clean, and didn't finish him, but hurt him a lot throughout that fight. And he really was playing catch up that whole time. And I'm seeing a lot of the same thing happening here with Rob Font. Unless, you know, that loss to Pedro Munoz really shook Rob Font and makes him tentative, then Thomas Almeida might be able to take the reins on this one. But I'm still leaning towards Rob Font by finish. Just, he's got banging power, and he hurts everybody he fights, and he's coming off of a loss, so I'm just thinking he's going to come back as a dog looking to get this win. So let's move forward. We're looking at Gian Villante versus Francimar Barbahosh. Barbahosh is not ranked currently, and Gian Villante is at the very ass end of the light heavyweight division. Really, he should probably be a middleweight. He's not really a big light heavyweight. I mean, he's a big guy, but he's not big for that division. He struggles with just about anybody he fights. I mean, he's got good technique. He trains with Weidman. You know, he knows his stuff. He trains out there in Long Beach. He knows his stuff, but he tends to get brawly. He tends to let things go longer than they should. But Barbahosh hasn't been tested yet. I think Gian Villante is probably going to be the one to test him. He might gatekeep him, hold him out. I'm leaning towards Gian Villante, which is not common for me. I don't commonly pick Gian Villante in any situation, but I'm leaning more towards Villante. He's got the experience. He's got the team on his side. Francimar Barbahosh is trying to move into the rankings. He's trying to take that next step, but I don't know if that next step is going to come through Gian Villante. I don't see him. Maybe, I mean, Gian Villante could finish him because he does hit kind of hard. He knocked Corey Anderson's teeth out of his mouth, so he does hit pretty hard, and he's a pretty strong guy, and he trains with Weidman. Like any guy who trains out there, they're usually pretty strong physically. They might not be the biggest guys in their division. They might be some of the slimmer guys in their division, but they're usually pretty physically imposing. So if he chooses to wrestle and go for jiu-jitsu, he could cause some problems. I'm not sure where Barbahosh ranks on the grappling. I've seen him strike, but I've never seen him grapple. Not in any extreme way. So I'm kind of leaning towards Gian Villante in this situation. I'm going to go with Villante for the pick. I'm not sure how it's going to go. And then we move up the card. We're looking at Calvin Couture versus Shane Hurricane Burgos. Shane Burgos, he's a tight fighter. Like, he throws a lot of wild punches. He's an exciting fighter. He's the type of guy you want to watch. He's in your face. He throws a lot of shots. He loves the sport. He started training and fighting from watching the sport, and that's always like the guys who come in with the most enthusiasm, because it's not like they've been lifelong preparing for this. They just kind of, something sparked the urge. And that's kind of where he is. Shane Burgos got the urge sparked for him. He talked at length on the Ariel Wani podcast, the MMA Hour. He sat in studio and talked. So you can find that on YouTube if you look for it. It's not hard to find. You can find it and listen to the guy speak. And then go back and watch him fight. And you're just like, man, this dude is hard nosed. He is in their face. He is looking for, he's throwing wild shots, hard punches, looking to knock people out. I mean, I think he got the one knockout in the UFC. I think he's fought twice in the UFC, but I only remember him getting a knockout one of those times. Now, Calvin Couture, or Cater, however you choose to pronounce it, fought, what's that cat's name? The skinny guy, trains out of Alpha Male. Less important. It's a less important detail right now. It doesn't matter right now, but he fought on short notice, late replacement. It came in, Touchy Feely was the guy he fought, Andre Feely. He came in and gave Andre Feely a pretty hard night. I think, and he got the decision too. Gave him a hard night. Hurt him several times with a long left hand. So this fight is a sleeper. It's on the main card. Like, not a lot of people know about either one of these guys, but they're gonna know something. If this fight even remotely goes the way it should, you're gonna know something about both of these guys. You're gonna know something about both of them because they both look great in their their performances before this one. So I'm leaning towards Shane Burgos. Because I like his style. I like his aggressiveness. I like how he comes. He really goes for it. Calvin Cater goes for it too, but I'm leaning towards Burgos. Far be it for me to predict the finish. I don't think that either one of these guys. I think both of these guys are pretty young in their career, haven't taken too many shots. Shane Burgos might have taken more shots because he's more reckless and more loose. So if a finish might happen, it might happen on Couture's side. Couture might finish Burgos. But I'm looking for a firefight out of both of these guys, and I'm picking Shane Burgos to get the decision. Or if he gets a finish, I'm excited too. Like this, I ain't no money on this, so it's all just like, it's all just picks. Ain't no money in this, and I'm just hoping that I see something very interesting, something fun, and something everybody can enjoy. Let's move on to the co-main event, which is Daniel Cormier's return to the light heavyweight division. It's a tricky situation because technically he lost his last fight, but it was ruled a no contest because of the whole John Jones situation. So is this a title defense for Daniel Cormier? Does this add to his resume? I don't know. This could be a whole different title run according to, if history tells the tale correctly. So Daniel Cormier, technically 19-1 with one no contest on his resume. Volkan Ozdemir 15-1. I think Volkan Ozdemir fought OSP. Then he backdoored and fought what's that guy's name? Looks like the little brother from Malcolm in the Middle, Misha Serkinov. Then he knocked out Peanut Head. What's that guy's name? He's got a really small head. Jimmy Minowa. I'm using people's heads to remember what their names are. It's crazy. But he knocked out. So the thing I want to talk about specifically with this fight, only little technique talk I really want to get into is Daniel Cormier does a lot of work from inside the clinch. We've always known that about him. He does a lot of work from in the clinch. Did a lot of work in the clinch against John Jones. Did a lot of work in the clinch against Pat Cummings. Actually finished him in the clinch. So Daniel Cormier likes the clinch. Now that might be a double-edged sword, like nobody's business, because Volkan Ozdemir's KO'd two guys with short shots in the clinch, hurt them bad, and beat them both by KO beat both of those guys in less than 70 seconds. Both happening in the clinch. So if anything in this fight, Daniel Cormier needs to fight at space or even fight on the ground, takedowns, be dominating, mix his game up, but avoid, at least early in the fight, avoid the clinch at all costs. If he doesn't avoid the clinch, we might be looking at an upset. We might be looking at Daniel Cormier looking at the lights again, crying on camera again. We don't know where his chin is after being head kicked by John Jones. We don't know, because he not only did he get head kicked, he got pummeled out, and that wasn't even but 6 months ago maybe. So we don't know where he is. We don't know, and it was the first knockout of his career. He's getting older. He's already an older guy, and he's getting older. And then he got knocked out in the late stage of his career, or the late stage of his life. His career hasn't been super, super long, but the late stage of his life, he got finished pretty violently. And we're looking at a guy who can finish you in an instance with some short shots in the clinch. Now, when Volkan Ozdemir fought OSP, he did not finish OSP. He actually fought to what looked like it was going to be a decision towards OSP, but they gave the decision to Ozdemir. I guess he, on the strength of his later fight in the second, midway through the second round and all the way through the third, he just pressured, and nonstop was in his face, putting hands on OSP, landing a lot of body kicks, landing a lot of leg kicks, trying to get in his face, trying to get the fight finished. But he did not finish him. He did not hurt him with any individual shot. He kind of put pressure on him, and OSP wore down, and he just continued to pressure. And this guy does train with Rumble. He does train exclusively with Rumble. Daniel Cormier wasted Rumble twice. Let's be frank. He wasted him twice. Everybody loves Rumble. I love Rumble. It's one of my favorite fighters of all time. The guy comes in and he knocks people out. But he got wasted by DC twice. And the second time was worse than the first. Second time, DC was hammering him on the ground from back mount, and it looked like he wanted to tap out. It looked like he wanted to tap out the strikes because he was just getting manhandled. And I see a lot of the same in Volkan Ozdemir's future. I see a lot of the same. As long as Daniel Cormier avoids the clinch, Daniel Cormier don't need to be trying to trade uppercuts in the clinch, rampage style. He don't need to be in the clinch trying to brawl it out. As we saw in the Jon Jones fight, Daniel Cormier's striking had come a long way. He eventually got hit by a head kick that looked like a body kick. Everybody would got hit by that. Jon Jones is so tall, you don't know where it's going. Jon Jones could have been scratching his ass for all Daniel Cormier knew, and it would have still hit him in the head because he's just so much taller. He's got so much more length. No one saw that kick coming, neither did Daniel Cormier. But before that, Daniel Cormier was pressuring the taller guy, landing shots on him, putting hands on him, head, body, working his legs. He was all over the place. He was doing exactly what he needed to do against Jon Jones, and then got kicked in the head. People like to try to write it off as if Daniel Cormier just, he got dominated. Jon Jones is Jon Jones. That's not the case, bro. And anybody saying that's the case is a liar. They're bold-faced lying. Daniel Cormier was working his ass off and arguably won those first 2 rounds handily. He was fighting at a different pace, and he was putting pressure on him, and he was landing more than he landed in the first fight. He was frustrating Jon Jones, and he was backing him up. Now, he did not prepare for, he allowed the kick. He got hit with a couple knees to the body, and then Jon Jones softened him with the knee to the body, got him used to that reaction, and then made him make the same reaction and hit him with a head kick. So Jon Jones did strategically place a trap somewhere midway through the second round that eventually paid off towards the end of it, towards the end of the fight. So he did start a trap, and he finished him, but it was not this incredible dominating performance that people try to say. DC was in that fight 100% more than he was in the first fight, and that first fight went all 5 rounds. So just to get that out the way, if Ozdemir can't KO DC in the clinch, and if he can't surprise him or shock him or hit him with something he ain't see coming, Ozdemir's got a long night ahead of him. Got a long night. He about to have the toughest night of his life. And I'm picking Daniel Cormier to beat this guy by stoppage somewhere in the first or second round. He's going to put the pressure on him and get him out of there. Might even tap him out. We'll see. But I like Ozdemir, man. I like what he was doing. It's been exciting. It's been a fun run to the top. But, unless DC has had some severe drop-off since the Jon Jones fight, or some severe, he only got hurt once before the Jon Jones knockout, and it was by a knee in the clinch in the 3rd round from, what's the 3rd round or 4th round? It was late in the fight with Alexander Gustafsson. That was the only time before that he had ever been significantly hurt in a fight that we have ever recalled. So, don't look like it's going to happen, man. And if he's banking on a 1-round knockout, it's just not a good look to only have that one thing in mind. But let's move to the main event. It's a very similar situation. A young guy, or a young to us, young to the fan base guy, young to the sport guy, moving into the title space off the strength of some knockouts, off the strength of some performances that were cut short because he finished his opponent so quickly that they didn't even get a chance to really pose any threats to him. We're talking about Francis Ngannou, the Predator, the man with the hardest punch in the world. We're talking about him versus Stipe Miocic, who we have known to be a proven finisher. On the strength of about to become the most winningest heavyweight champion. All he's got to do is defend his belt. All he's got to do is win Saturday, and he's got the record for most title defenses in the heavyweight history. Now, if we know anything about history, it tends to repeat itself. So there's a chance that he might not see that 3rd title defense. But the chance lies in Francis Ngannou's fight. This is Francis's fight to lose. He has to perform. Stipe can come in here, shoot for a double, work the 1s and 2s, beat him up like he beat Mark Hunt up for 5 rounds, and boom, still champion. Francis Ngannou has to KO Stipe. Francis Ngannou has to stop the takedown. Francis Ngannou has to not get gassed going into the later rounds. So this is his fight to lose. The odds makers may, tip the scales towards Ngannou because he's got this freak power, and he's the second coming of Mike Tyson at heavyweight. He's got all these things, and I like Francis Ngannou. Trust me, I like the guy. I've been amazed by his run, starting with the Anthony Hamilton submission. I've been completely enthralled by what he's been doing to these guys in the UFC heavyweight division. Just completely enthralled by it, and I would love nothing more for him to get the title and then to continue to progress and get better and better and better, and be that second coming, be that guy at heavyweight. I'd love to see it. Absolutely love to see it, but this is his fight to lose. He's got to perform. Stipe just got to show up and do what Stipe does, and Stipe will get the W. So my pick is on Stipe Miocic's side, the champion DJ Stipe on the 1s and 2s. He can win this fight any way he chooses. He can win this fight by knockout early because he's got the power to do it. He's also been stopped. He's been stopped by punches before. Stephen Struve stopped him by punches. He's been hurt by punches before. Junior Dos Santos dropped him several times. Alistair Overeem dropped him and almost choked him out. The difference between Alistair Overeem and Francis Ngannou, though, if Francis drops him, it's not going to be no submission attempt. He's going flat. He's going to be rolled out in the stretcher if Ngannou drops him even a little bit. Stretcher time. Get the stretcher ready. The reach is on Ngannou's side. The leg reach is on Ngannou's side. The weight is on Ngannou's side. The youth is on his side. The less mileage in fighting is on his side. But with all that on his side, the championship experience is still on Stipe Miocic's side. So, I mean, like I said, man, Stipe Miocic just got too many skills. Got the skills to pay the bills. And I'm leaning towards Stipe to get this fight. He can finish it. He can win it in any way he chooses. He can take this fight. He can stop him early. He can wear him down with takedown attempts until the 3rd round, and then just put pressure on him and beat him up like he did Mark Hunt all the way to the 5th. He can beat him up until he wants to force him out and make him lose, make him TKO him at any point on the way to the 5th. So I mean, it's just his fight to win, and it's just Ngannou's fight to lose. Ngannou's got to perform if he wants to win this fight. So I'm glad I got to bring you this content. I'm glad I got to talk to you about it. Let me know in the comment section if you disagree with any of my picks. Like I said, these picks are all like, ain't no points, ain't no money involved, ain't no bets out there on the table. I'm in Louisiana. You can't even bet on fights where I live, so ain't no bets out here. But this is just where my loyalties lie, I guess you can say. I don't know. It's no offense to any of these guys. I love all the fighters. I love all the fights. I can't wait to watch all the fights. So you know, I'm just saying this is where I'm leaning. This is the direction I'm going. But until next time, it's been Brian at the Apex Gamer Channel. Hope you enjoy the fights. Tune in, get the pay-per-view, watch it at home. What I'm gonna do, I ain't going to Buffalo Wild Wings. That's a story for another day. But catch you guys on the flippity flop.